What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the very first waiver wire show here at Fantasy and Frames. We do articles all the time for starts and sits. We have podcast shows that we do for starts and sits. We do our pregame show, starts and sits. First time we've ever done a waiver wire show. So we're giving it a shot here, seeing what you all like, what you get out of it. We're going to be talking some offense. We're talking some defense. Do a little recap of the weekend. And just pretty much just talk about whatever we can talk about because this is going to be a little bit less formal than all the other shows that we do here at Fantasy and Frames. That, and then of course the mailbag show that we have on Thursdays. Joining me this evening, we got Mr. Nate Markham. Nate, how are you doing today, man?
Doing good. It's no Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce sighting today, so it is a rather boring day.
It is kind of scary how my feed on various social media platforms, especially you, Instagram, I'm talking to you, has taken over. Whenever I click on a reel, the very next reel where you can swipe up to go, it's like, oh, next one, Taylor Swift related, Travis Kelce related. Anyhow, so it's pretty much well documented, everything that's happened since the football game. I will spare everybody else watching who has zero interest in that. Gator Jay. Yeah, speaking of which, Gator Jay, how you doing, man?
Zero interest in it. I'm just waiting for the Blame It on Kansas City album to come out, and then we can get back to normal life with the Kelce and Swift, Swifties and Kelce's. And I did you see the picture of the Philly game right before the Bucks? Where Jason Kelce walks right in front of DeAndre Swift, and of course
perfect.
they have to bring up the.
It's perfect.
Swift. I mean, it's just whatever. You can't. That's not even just Kansas City anymore. It's all over.
It makes you wonder whether or not that part was like scripted. Like, hey, Jason, why don't you go walk behind DeAndre over there for a second and see what happens?
The producer should be fired just for saying it out loud.
Even if it doesn't work out, I know I said we weren't going to talk about it, but we're kind of talking about it. Even if it doesn't work out for Trav, which, whatever. His jersey sales went up, 400% since? Like, that is ridiculous.
You know what it does? So, Carrie loved it. And we had Haley, daughter, my sister, Sarah. The family was there, and they were so, and Carrie's into football, so she was watching football, but it was such a spectacle. Yeah, there you go. She loved it. That it will draw the casual female fan into more of pay attention role.
No. There was a girl, and she couldn't have been older than like 19 on Good Morning America this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about, cannot remember where she was living, but she has already purchased airline tickets and tickets to go to Kansas City 3 times for the rest of the year just to see if she can get a picture with Taylor Swift, knowing that Taylor Swift's going to be there.
Yeah, ticket prices are crazy. Which, if there's an opportunity, if old Taylor decides to come to LA in January to watch the Chargers and Chiefs play, Carrie and I will be there. And LA will be front and center, sure. And it will be the hot spot. We will let you know how we get in. I'm assuming we'll be in the box with her, and it will probably, as always, she and Carrie become instant best friends, and we'll probably have to go on the European tour. So I'm bowing out early for a week early. I know. It was.
It's crazy. I had my 2 nieces in South America message me today because I shared a reel on Instagram, and they're like, it makes us almost want to learn American football. I'm like, wow, that's where we're at with that. This is
it's crazy.
It is something. And who I really feel really happy for is the people who actually have the season tickets right below the Kelce booth.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine how much those are going to be scalped for or whatever now on StubHub or SeatGeek or whatever? Just what she touches is gold. It's ridiculous. It's amazing. Kudos to the potential young couple if that is a thing. But anyhow, that's not what you're here for. Oh, maybe it's what some people are here
I was going to say.
for.
Show's over.
Yeah.
If we see the viewership drop, we may go back to it. Who knows? But you're here for some fantasy football information. Waiver Wire Tuesday. If you haven't already, head over to fantasyandframes.com. Check out our waiver wire article that Stacy Perez, that you can find at Stacy_Perez83. She put out for offensive players as well as defense special teams. And then as well as my IDP waiver wire article I put out just an hour ago. Check both of them out. We'll be touching on those, somewhat. Obviously we want you to go visit fantasyandframes.com and check out all of the hard work that everybody put into that, as well as check out all the hard work we're going to be putting in the rest of the week. And in fact, Nate joining us tonight, he's got something special to talk about when it comes to more IDP content. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Right now, let's talk about the end of week 3. First of all, gentlemen, yay or nay on having multiple games on Monday Night Football or on Monday nights? Nate, start with you.
The yay to it, nay to how they do it.
I'm with you.
Spread them out.
Like the stacking of the games, like an hour apart.
Start one. If you have to start one at 5:30, whatever. So be it. 5:30 Central. Let's not get carried away. And the other one at 8:30. So be it. But I don't like when they're stacked. And I'm sure there's a monetary gain for the NFL, or they wouldn't do it that way. But I don't know what it would be.
I don't know if it's a monetary gain for the NFL, but I do know it's the streaming services that are causing it.
But if the NFL wasn't making money, they wouldn't do it.
Oh, no. Yeah, well, it's stupid of me to say it that way, I guess, because if the NFL's not making money, they're not doing it. Correct. You're absolutely correct.
But I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I don't mind the idea. I mean, that game last night for the Bucs-Eagles game started at 7:15 East. You're talking, jumping up another 30 minutes to a half hour, 30 minutes to 45 minutes there, and started at 6:30 East, be 5:30 your time. And then you can have the West Coast game, start at, or whatever they want to call it. Cincinnati is Central Time, but they kept calling it the West Coast game last night. You can have that one start 2.5 hours later, right as the first game is ending. And then everybody's jumping on that, and you're still not up till 1 a.m. If you remember a few years ago, they did that, where they had them separated out, right. But the people were up till 2 a.m. on the East Coast to watch the end of the game.
Right. That's a good point. I wonder if that's going to be the norm going forward for Monday night, or is it just early season kickoff? That's how we're doing it. And then it'll go back to the regular one game on Monday night. I have no idea. I've not looked at the schedule yet
I will look at that as you go on.
Yeah, there's no other dual Monday night games to the best of my knowledge.
Oh, good. Thank you. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about. One thing that really bugged me from the Rams and Bengals game had nothing to do with the game itself. It had to do with the fact that they were inducting 2 members into the Bengals Ring of Honor. One of which being Boomer Esiason, a Super Bowl quarterback who led the team against 49ers way back in the 80s, and Chad Ochocinco. Don't you think one of those players should have been inducted into the Ring of Honor a little bit sooner than now?
Yeah, I think Chad Ochocinco should have been in it a long time ago.
Stop it! Come on. I mean, come on, Boomer. Like Boomer Esiason. Let's I don't know. Where's the love for Boomer Esiason? I don't know. I thought that was kind of odd. But, hey, congratulations to both of them. Speaking of congratulations, let's talk about, potential buy or sell candidates coming off of week 3 that, could be a good thing for the manager getting rid of the player. It could be a good thing for the manager getting the player. Gator, let's talk about some players that you have listed on the top of your head that are good sell players following week 3.
Well, I think, one of the ones that people need to start looking at to sell, to capitalize on right now is going to be Tutu Atwell. As bad as it is to say, I know he was in a lot of people's hearts for the last couple of years, but you look at the last 3 weeks and he's getting right about 80 to 85% snap share. 17 receptions, 26 yards, 17 receptions, 26 targets, 246 yards, and he's getting over a 20% target share And all of that is about to come to an end for him. Soon as Cooper Kupp comes back, Tutu Atwell goes from being the number 2 to being number 3, and possibly even sharing a little bit of time of that number 3 with Van Jefferson. And everybody, you know, that drafted him, especially in Dynasty, drafted him, 2 years ago or a year ago, they were waiting for these weeks. And, you had that 1 week last year. And then now all of a sudden it's been consistent because there's been no Cooper Kupp. If you were ever going to capitalize and get something of value for Tutu, I believe now is the time to do that. If you wait another week, you may be losing a little bit of value because Cooper Kupp is coming back. I'm not sure if it's going to be week 5 or if it's going to be week 6. But if you wait too long, the other manager is going to figure it out that's why you're selling him.
So you bring up a good point here, in him getting bumped down the pecking order. Do you think he's really going to be splitting time with Van Jefferson? I feel like Van Jefferson is going to be the person who's going to be the odd person out in this situation because he's kind of just like fallen off into obscurity this season. Everybody was thinking when Cooper Kupp was going to miss the first week, oh, well, better go get Van Jefferson. He's going to get the majority of targets. He's going to assume the Cooper Kupp role. We all got the notifications from our sleeper app. He's going to get the Cooper Kupp role, and it's like, nope, not so much. And in fact, you're not even getting the Robert Woods role. You're getting like the leftovers. And now you have a capable wide receiver too now on that offense who will probably get bumped down, assuming that Cooper Kupp comes back. That's a big if, folks. Gets bumped out to that wide receiver 3 role, and then Van Jefferson kind of sees his playing time kind of start to diminish there. So I'm wondering, even as a wide receiver 3, does Tutu potentially have? But that's just it. You're selling Tutu Atwell, right? But what are you getting from him? What are you getting for him?
Well, let me back up real quick and let's answer your question. Is he really going to lose time to Van Jefferson? And I'm not saying he's going to lose a ton of time. However, if you look at what the numbers say, Van Jefferson's on the field right now at about 90% of the time, maybe a little bit more. That's more than Tutu's been on the field all year long. Tutu's been way more efficient, but Van Jefferson's been on the field more. So I do think it's not going to take a ton out of it, but he is going to clip in there a little bit here and there. So that's the reason I say Van Jefferson will clip in a little bit.
So what are you selling Tutu Atwell for redraft?
Redraft, you're probably trying to. You may have to package him in order to tier up, for a running back. But right now with the running back situation, I try to be, any warm bodies that you can get, even if it's, should have thought about this before I brought his name up, but would you do maybe a Tutu Atwell, maybe adding a little piece here or there to go get Algiers?
Ooh. Yeah, like get like a package deal going on there with Tutu and trying to get up there and get Tyler Algier.
Yeah.
I don't know. That sounds like my initial gut feeling when I heard that was like, all right, I could see this. It would depend on like the package deal you're putting around there, but
yeah. But that's the kind of tier up you're trying to do right there with a Tutu. Is you're not gonna, as the Tutu manager that you are not gonna get much for him.
Right.
But if you can add him to a small piece as well and tier up, you're selling the fact. Listen, not to make this a long-winded thing, but you're selling the fact that right now he is wide receiver 2 on that offense, and we don't know when Cooper Kupp is coming back. We're assuming that Cooper Kupp is coming back in week 5, week 6.
Yeah.
But then you look at the numbers, and when like I said, Van Jefferson's sitting there at 93%. Tutu hit 94% last week. That's the only time he's been above 87. It's a snap share. So Van Jefferson's consistently on the field. You're selling the fact that he is getting the opportunity. He's the one that Matthew Stafford threw the touchdown to. Matthew Stafford only has 1 passing touchdown this year. and it's 2-2-2 Atwell.
Yep.
So
Fair
you
point.
have to use your weapons that are in your bag to sell this to that manager to try to tear up.
Makes sense. Question from Albert. I'm sorry. Go on, Nate.
I'm going to say that might be something you'd have to do, though, is legitimately sell that, because all of that data is stuff that I can't say that I knew about 2-2, and I am not a buyer in Atwell. But at the same time, if that's the scary situation, is no one wants a trade offer sent with a paragraph below it telling you why you would be stupid not to take 2-2 Atwell off your hands. And so, but I feel like there's context needed. And so it's like a double-edged sword, unfortunately, with a player like that.
I got a question here from Albert. Sell high on Raheem Mostert. I know, Gator, where you stand on this. We'll get to your take in a second. Want to hear what Nate has to say. Maybe there are some differing opinions here. What are your thoughts here?
It's ironic that comes up, because if asked me of who I thought to sell high, Mostert would have been one of the names that I would have been definitely, I'd say, petitioning for to sell high. I think that there's a case to be made that we're going to talk about, Devin Echan, I believe is what he's wanting to go by now. And the thing is Jeff Wilson's coming back next week, most likely. You're going to have a three-headed monster. I think that when you take Jalen Waddle out of the equation this week, obviously there's nothing negative I can pour, cold water on that Miami offense. There's nothing short of just explosive, but there is exponential value. The great question, though, is, what do you want in return? And that's why these are such hard questions, because you're asking a hypothetical do you package Raheem Mostert to the person who does not have Nick Chubb, and do you try to get back an elite wide receiver? Whereas, assuming Raheem Mostert is your 3 or 4 on your team, do you take a short-sighted loss or gain, just be able to do so before that you have the three-headed monster there? Gator, what were you in, I'd say, disagreement? Are you saying hold Mostert?
No, I'm absolutely saying sell Mostert. Right now he is RB1 on the season. When is he ever going to be that high again in his life?
Right.
He's not. So it's that, like I said about Tutu, you're selling on certain stats. He's RB1. He's never going to be more valuable.
I always wonder about these sell high situations where is to sell right after the biggest game possible. Is that when other people are not wanting to buy high as well? Or do you follow it up with a week this week when let's say he has 18 carries and he takes the majority of the workload, and it's not David Echan that comes in and steals the majority of the work back? Is his value even greater after another positive week, knowing full well that after that, you know what I mean? It's kind of, that's a tough thing to gauge, is, the managers who you're offering that to are thinking, yeah, I'm not buying at his peak. I'll buy when he cools off. And if he doesn't cool off, then maybe the value increases. That's a tough one, but I'm with you there. I'm definitely, if I can get a good offer, I would sell Mostert.
I've got a quick question for you, Nate. When you look at his usage for the first 3 weeks, first 2 weeks, he was at 75% snap share. Last week, he was at 50% snap share. Of course, last week at 50% snap share was his best week in his life.
Right.
Can you use that as well in your negotiations on why?
I gotta tell you, I mean, I don't know if the negotiations that I ever engage in are describing what the other person just saw as well. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like I just let the numbers do the talking, and the value and the benefit of a starting worthy player. And, I'm probably send it out to a few different teams and see who has the highest return expectation, or what they think the highest of. But yeah, and I mean, looking at his usage, I don't know if he'll never be that efficient again. We know that, but it's trickier than just, cut and dry.
I don't know. I agree with what you're saying. I think the difficulty of finding the trade partner, I don't think it's as difficult as a lot of us, as you guys are saying. You go to the Josh Jacob manager, go to the Najee Harris manager, go to the managers who are 0-3 in your teams. They're probably deficient at running back. Case in point, I have in one league, which fortunately I'm stacked at wide receiver, but my starting running backs are A.J. Dillon and Dalvin Cook. You telling me I wouldn't want to make a trade for Elijah Mitchell? She's not Elijah Mitchell. Excuse me, Raheem Mostert. Like, yeah.
When I'm saying sell high on these players, I'm not saying, trade Raheem Mostert and go get Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts back. I'm saying you can actually get value for them.
Right.
You can go get a starting player for them and not somebody that's just a bench piece. You have to remember, Raheem Mostert is also 30-something years old.
31, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would you take back? I mean, what's a good return that you would take back? Would Cortland Sutton be somebody that you would take back after a big week?
Not Cortland Sutton, but what about Jerry Jeudy?
There you go. I like that. That sounds pretty good. I would definitely. But I guess my thought process would be, let me get somebody who's underperforming now, but I know has the upside down the stretch to really turn it on as the season goes, like a Jacobs. And I'll even throw Najee into that category. We'll see after this week if that still remains the case. But definitely like a Josh Jacobs. Let's get to Tanner's question. He's been waiting here for a while. Should I drop D-Hop? And if so, should I drop him for Tank Dell or Adam Thielen? I'm a Tank Dell fan. There are a lot of us here who are Tank Dell fans. We're seeing his increased usage. CJ Stroud is a gunslinger. 3 weeks into his young rookie career. I would absolutely drop D-Hop for Tank Dell and just ride the upside there. His separation, his speed. There's a reason why his target percentage is going up so high week after week after week. I would definitely do that. Nate, what do you think here?
I would hate to drop D-Hop. I think this kind of goes in there. I would try to trade D-Hop to someone who thinks that better days are ahead, because the last thing you want to do is drop, a rising DeAndre Hopkins. The only reason I would say a rise is because I think that at some point this might be a little spicy, but I think there's a case that the Titans could move on from Derrick Henry, especially if they're down, if there's a team willing, and his toe injury is not exactly uplifting. There's a lot of things that could lean to them being a more pass-heavy team. Does that mean that there's going to be more value there? No, because I don't see anything behind Tannehill, but I would trade Hopkins before I would drop him if possible.
All right. Let's go to a player or two that you would be interested in buying. We already talked about Jerry Jeudy. I brought up Najee. Gator, who's one that you're really excited about buying, especially heading into this week and their matchup?
Calvin Ridley, and it's pretty plain and simple. Great week one for him. After not playing for a year plus, the last 2 weeks, the Jags, every bit of that team has come out and it's been flat, for everybody. But oh baby, guess what week 4 brings? I know it's in London. I get that it's in London, but can we get revenge against the Atlanta Falcons for Calvin Ridley? I mean, this just lined up perfect. You had a great comeback and then just 2 meh weeks just for you to have a boom against your old team.
Well, not to mention, London is their official home stadium, in case people have forgotten.
That is true. And by the way, that game will be happening while we are live.
Oh, yeah.
On the Sunday pregame show.
There will be probably expletives shouted if Calvin Ridley does not go off, or if he does go off, or Travis Etienne, or you name it. All right, cool. Well, let's get into some waiver wire stuff. Let's get into some quarterback situation here. Gator, let's stick with you here for a second. Who's a quarterback? I mentioned CJ Stroud being somebody who's who's available, who's just playing lights out. Give me another quarterback that people should be trying to target off waivers this week, heading into week 4.
Wait, I'll bring you one that You just have to remember, the only reason I'm bringing his name up is because starting next week, we get into bye weeks. And depending on how your draft went, depending on if you got an Aaron Rodgers or, an injuries already happened to your super flex position, Andy Dalton's sitting there on Sleeper, 5% owned, and on ESPN, he's only 1% rostered. So as a stopgap for a couple weeks until Bryce gets back, Sunday, he threw 58 freaking balls in the air, 350 yards, 2 TDs. Man, oh man, he was trusting some Adam Thielen and DJ Chark. 25 targets between the two of them out of the 58 that he threw. I don't know that Bryce Young has ever thrown that many balls in a game. But Andy Dalton throwing 58 times, that makes me feel things. And if I can have him as my super flex and he throws up 20 points in my super flex for 1 week, just as a stand-in guy for my bye week, yes, please. Thank you.
Nice. Let's switch it up. Let's go IDP offense. Let's see what's going on here. Nate, who's a defensive lineman for Baltimore that people should be paying attention to and is probably on your waiver wire right now in your IDP leagues?
For Baltimore?
For Baltimore, defensive lineman who's
I
was shocked when I was doing the research on him just because of the pressures I was seeing on the season as well as the tackle numbers. And it's somebody that I would never have thought of, especially when it came to pressures, because we always typecasted him as
Jadeveon Clowney.
Yes, that's who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I could see Clowney being a waiver wire pickup. I mean, if you look at what he's done so far on the season, it's been, really, really impressive. He's seeing regular snaps. This Baltimore scheme, I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact they don't have any pass rushers too. Everybody's going down like flies, but 13 pressures, 3 games. Last year it took him until week 8 to get to 13 pressures. Granted, that was also because he did miss time. But when you say it like that, it does build some pizzazz. But I do like Jadeveon Clowney. And until Ojabo gets back and the overall, I would say defensive scheme is definitely one that is blitz happy. And that's what you want to see. And Clowney, if they face a team that's run heavy, we know what he is. He can set the edge. He can still pick up tackles. But again,
this is not like a long-term, fix here, but somebody who's been showing an upward trend couldn't hurt to have him on your roster. Just if you have a deep enough roster, if you're rolling 3 defensive linemen deep in your IDP league, or you have an IDP flex position, or excuse me, not an IDP flex position, but a 3 defensive line position. Then,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I like Clowney, especially considering he's probably available in about every league because no one wants to touch him for the exact reason you just said earlier. Is he's been typecast and he will disappoint because he'll go, he'll have no tackles for 2 or 3 games in a row, and then bam, I don't know about the pressures or unsuspecting, but I think that's scheme. And I think that's situation too.
Well, sure, but at the right time, space, and place also plays a big role, I think, into that, which I think you were alluding to a little bit.
Absolutely.
Gator, offensive player. It doesn't matter the position, just throw out a name and let's talk about him.
Well, I think, we'll just go ahead and get it out of the way. I think the ad of the week, and you can spend as much fab or whatever you want on it, and that's Devon A. Chain. As Nate said earlier, I just don't think that this is one of the reasons I said Mostert is a sell for me, is I do believe that a Chain is eventually within the next probably 2 weeks going to be the primary back here. I just feel like he's got better burst. When you look at what he did this past week, of course, it was against Denver and that horrific side of the ball there. I don't know if you can call that defense or not, but that's what they call it in Denver. If you watch what he did, there was actually another touchdown that was called back from him because of a holding call. That Mostert actually ended up getting a touchdown on that. So the stats could have been even bigger for him when it comes down to it, with another touchdown. I think it was about an 8-yard run for him. But yeah, so it's Devon A-Chain. I mean, when you look at it, for whatever reason, maybe it's because we saw Mosher and Jeff Wilson, and we know the mindset of what Mike McDaniel came from the Kyle Shanahan tree. We don't give a damn about running backs. 46% rostered on Sleeper, 60% on ESPN. I can go ahead and tell you right now, and I know we don't like to make guarantees in fantasy football, but I can guarantee you that neither one of those numbers are going to be that low tomorrow at about 4 a.m.
Yeah.
4 a.m. tomorrow, both of those numbers are going to be about doubled each, at least. And if they're not, it will absolutely surprise me.
So you bring up a very, very funny thing. Am I the only one out of the three of us here who gets up naturally during the regular season at 3 and then at 6 a.m.? Like you get up at 3 because Sleeper, that's when a lot of the waivers go through. And then 6 a.m. is right when ESPN goes through. Am I the only one who does that? Like wake up at 3, take a nap, go back. No.
I had been doing that for Yahoo. Was always about that time. And that was always the get up that way. You didn't, because if you don't waste this was not a Fab situation, but which is what I like about Fab is that it's eliminated that for people that want to get up at 3 a.m. and go in, not set a waiver claim, not lose their number one because they want to pick up a kicker or a defense. Right. And they get up, pick up the hot kicker or defense they want, go back to bed, and they didn't waste a waiver claim.
Yeah.
And I like, don't get me wrong, I'm all in favor of competitive edges. I want to get, benefit someone for doing that. But yeah, I am. I'm up at 6.
I was so hovering over that. I was going to let Nate finish and then bring it up. But I think the more important question is do either of you have to set an alarm for this? Because I was going to say.
But I'm up at 6 because our dog wakes me up at 6 because she wants to go outside. And so she carefully comes up and puts her paw on my shoulder, and she doesn't mess with Carrie. She wakes me up. And so then I'm up at 6, and then I can't go back to sleep.
That's a smart dog.
She knows. She wants to make sure I got all my waivers put in. She's no dummy. She monitors if she knows if Daddy wins, then she gets better food.
So last week was the Jerome Ford sweepstakes, right? And so I got up at 3 a.m. when the sleeper notification went out. Got the little vibration next to the desk or the nightstand. Saw it. I immediately start at 4 a.m. start sending out work emails, and then we have a work meeting at 8 o'clock. And I walk into the room I hobble in the room, and they're like, "Did you see that Jorge sent an email at 4 a.m.?" And I'm like, "Yes, I did send multiple emails to both of you at 4 a.m. talking to my supervisors." And they're like, "Why the hell are you up at 4 a.m.?" I'm like, "It's fantasy football season. That's why." Let's go with another IDP here. Somebody I wrote about in the IDP waiver wire column over at fantasyandframes.com. Coincidentally, I'll cover both linebackers because they're both from my home team for the Washington Commanders. I have been so impressed with Jamin Davis down the stretch of last season and into this season. He is according to PFF, he is their highest graded linebacker on the Commanders, has a 0% missed tackle efficiency, has a sub 100 NFL passer rating allowed when targeted on the season, put up 11 total tackles in a pass defense in week 3. In terms of like both these linebackers, him and Cody Barton, who I'll get to in a second, his efficiency metrics I feel are more sustainable. Fantasy Pros ECR has him as the LB 44. He can easily finish in the 20s each and every week. Coincidentally, the one who's least efficient, who's hated by PFF, is Cody Barton. And the only reason why Cody Barton's on this list, even though he sucks in run support, is the fact that he's on the field 100% of the time, and he gets you tackles. Who is the name of that linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles that Mike Bauer hates that we keep on referencing him to?
Nathan Gary?
Nathan Gary. He is the Nathan Gary of linebackers on the Washington Commanders. Now, I'm not – are you saying I'm never getting his autograph?
Nathan Gary never got signed to be the starting middle linebacker for a team like Cody Barton did.
Coincidentally, Nathan Gary was a linebacker for the Commanders last year, I believe, if not the year before. So that's just
being a linebacker and being paid to be the linebacker are two different situations. And this is not me supporting Cody Barton's skill set on the field by any means. It helps inflate that security and safety that Cody Barton can bring to your fantasy linebacking core when, like you said, he plays 100% of the snaps. And
yes,
he does have I think a clear path to the double-digit tackles each week. He doesn't do much else. I mean, he won't rush the passer like Jamin Davis does, which is not that. That's probably an unfair thing too. I mean, combined they have 4 pass rush snaps, so it's not like Cody Barton is standing back and Jamin Davis is doing his best Frankie Louvu impersonation. But that's what Jamin Davis needed, is that sack in week 2 and a little bit out of production to stay afloat up there. But I like both of those. I would prioritize Cody Barton over Jamin Davis. Would you disagree, and would you go the opposite direction?
It's so hard, right? Because it's like at the end of the day, most fantasy leagues are tackle heavy, and you want those tackles, and Cody Barton's going to get you those tackles. You mentioned it. He's going to stay on the field. They signed him to like granted it was a 1-year deal, but they did sign him to be their middle linebacker. I don't know. I'm on team Jamin Davis. I can't quit him. Whether it's him helping out in run support or him helping out in coverage and getting those pass deflections. I mean, however, he presents a multitude of ways of getting you fantasy points through making various types of plays. Cody Barton gives you just the tackle upside, which again, depending on your scoring settings, again, we always talk about this.
Of course.
If your scoring settings are kind of just tackle heavy inflated, yes, I'm going for Cody Barton. If I'm getting 3 or more points for a pass deflection or 5 points for an interception, okay, now we're talking. Now we're shifting towards Jamin Davis's skill set a little bit more than Cody Barton. So
to wrap this up with a bow, is what you're saying is the Washington Commanders are going to be losing enough that they're going to be in run defense because the other team's going to run the clock out. Therefore, Jamin Davis will have more supported floor as a result. We can leave it at that. You heard it here first. Washington Commanders fan Jorge believes you will lose 8 of your next 10, and Jamin Davis is the play. Go ahead, Gator.
Tank for Caleb. Yeah. No.
Tank for Caleb. Good luck. It looks like the Bears have the stranglehold on that one.
We got George Cook here in the chat here. How much fab do I drop on Tank Dell? Gonna drop Sky Moore for him. All I got is $100 of my fab left. Was thinking
he's got 30. All of his 100 fab left.
Oh, he's got all of his 100 fab.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Reading is good. He was thinking $30. Gator, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, dude, that's probably right about fair. 30%. I mean, I that may be a little bit high, but if you want to go get him, you're probably going to have to go there. When you're spending fab like that, you got to know your league mates and knowing what they're going to buy and what they're going to try to sell or what they're going to try to spend on it rather is half of the battle. And I think I said this earlier today. It should probably be somewhere in that 15 to 20% range, but it's probably, not going to be bad to go with 30, because if you spend 15 to 20, or if you spend, 15 to 20% and somebody spends 22%, you're going to be pissed. Right. But if you spend 30% and somebody spends 22, you're fine.
It's interesting. Interesting little thing. Me and my friend, Jeremy, we did some independent research on this one year, and we've always found that betting or bidding odd numbers tends to always work out better for people than who do even numbers.
So in baseball, that's pretty much all fab. The number 1 is like the worst. You never want to go 1 because that's the easiest one that everybody thinks you're going to go 51 instead of 50. So yeah, like 3 and 5, believe it or not, is actually like 2 of the best, because it's like people want to think that's going to be 9 or 1, but that middle pick. Well, I want to hear what your research found.
No, that's exactly right. Like more often than not, going for like a 3, or I didn't look into the whole 1 or 9 scenario there, but definitely going odd always, especially towards like the end, or even the middle, like you were saying. Yeah, it always ended up working out more often than not. So I thought that was kind of interesting there. Got a question here from, no, not even going to try to say the YouTube name there, but congratulations. That is a lot of vowels and consonants you got going on. Should I trade Terry McLaurin, I'm assuming, and Alvin Kamara for Cooper Kupp? Is this for in-season redraft, or is this for Dynasty? If you can give us an answer on that, that'll help us make a better informed decision. Got a question here from Brian. Is JSN worth the pickup? Started out with fantastic wide receiver depth, but now people are going down. Watson, Williams. Stuck between JSN, Thielen, or Dell.
Well, let's first go like this. Watson's going to be coming back here very, very shortly.
Mhm.
That's number one. Go over to Fantasy and Frames, read the article that we just dropped. Stacy just dropped. Tank Dell is going to be the answer for me in this, just because of the usage that he's already seeing. Even though it's a rookie quarterback, the rookie quarterback, rookie wide receiver combination in Houston with D'Amico Ryans is different. It's just different there than it is in the other 31 NFL cities when it comes to rookie quarterback, rookie wide receivers. It is different. Tank Dell is the answer for me.
So I got a question for you guys, because I'm dealing with this situation too. And Tank Dell is right there on my waiver wire, one of these leagues I'm in, and I have Nico Collins.
Mhm.
And I'm right now in a position where, given the depth on my roster, the person I would have to drop to get Tank Dell would be Nico Collins on this team. Would you do it?
Yep. I wouldn't, but I respect anybody that wants to go the Tank Dell route.
Why wouldn't you? Why is that?
I don't take the one-off game. This past one is the indoctrination against Nico. He's proven for the last 2 weeks that he's been the one. He's sustained a 20+ target share, and I wouldn't be so hasty to drop Nico for. Granted, don't get me wrong. Tank Dell's still number 3 on that team in routes run, and I know that's going to change. I know Robert Woods will eventually, maybe not though. I don't actually believe that, but I feel safer with Nico than I do with Tank Dell. But I don't disagree that this past week was enlightening, and maybe it was a sign of things to come. And that's what the question you have to answer is it a sign of things to come, or is it an outlier that Nico wasn't the number one and it won't go back that way? And I don't know. I don't have that answer. I'm just leaning that I would think that it would be Nico more times than not. Or it sucks that that's the only option you have too.
I know. All right, going back to this question, Terry McLaurin and Alvin Kamara for Cooper Kupp. It is for Dynasty. Gator, immediate thoughts, rapid reaction, your thoughts, yes or no?
I'm probably keeping Terry and Kamara in this. Cooper Kupp's getting up there in age. Yes, Kamara's getting up there in age. He's coming. They're both fixing to come back. I think, honestly, I like Terry McLaurin's situation there in Washington. I don't like the quarterback situation, but I do like the situation that he's in as far as the new OC and having some team there to be around him. Cooper Kupp, I could see with this injury, it's a hamstring, so he could come back and play 1 week and then not play for another 7.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We got Fantasy Dysfunctional here. Welcome back to the show, Fantasy Dysfunctional. Redraft, half PPR. He has Justin Fields, Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper, Christian Kirk, DJ Moore, Bijan, Barkley, Najee, Charbonnet, AJ Dillon, Hunter Henry. 1 to 2, any moves to make?
All right, so let's start with his running backs. So his running backs right now, it's Bijan, Saquon, Najee, Charbonnet, AJ Dillon. So clearly one and then a blend. You have higher feelings on Najee than I do. I don't have any Najee, and I'm not happy. I'm not taking no victory laps on the fact that he looks as bad as he has so far. I just don't think there's anything that stops Jaylen Warren from continuing to take touches away. I like what we saw with Charbonnet. Huh?
He's not taking touches away from Najee. The numbers say flat out he is not taking touches from Najee. What Warren is taking from Najee right now is all the receiving game. That's it. He's not taking touches at all.
Touches. was when he touched the ball. Is he touching the ball? Is
He's
it not thrown to him?
Yeah.
He's not
yeah.
taking.
I didn't say he's taking carries away. I said
carries.
touches.
Yeah.
And with Najee, it was never about efficiency. It was all about volume. And if his volume is cut down, it is dangerous. But again, I understand. I worry that offensive line is so bad. So bad.
And we all thought they upgraded something, and they didn't.
Yeah.
You see what that we all thought. They drafted a tight end that can block well. Congratulations. And that's
Darnell Washington. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, he's
I know they did better. No. So here, what do you guys think? Moves to make. I mean, is the easy answer to say, hey, you have to try to find what do you do with Justin Fields?
Bench him. You bench him. You can't start him.
Correct.
So I would immediately look to your waiver wire to see who's available at the quarterback position. If a CJ Stroud's there, absolutely. Or else you're just streaming week to week at that point, and you just find the best matchup that you can find. Which
I would like to pair DJ Moore and Najee or Charbonnet or AJ Dillon for. I don't know if I want to do it for number 2 or not because I trust Barkley's coming back, but maybe just sit tight in the intermediate.
I would be scouring for tight end help. Hunter Henry. That's where I would be looking. I'd be going to get. I would be trying to. Would you do like a DJ Moore, AJ Dillon for? Depending, I don't know if they may not even be. They may be on your waiver wire. I don't know. Would you do it for? Oh, sheesh. I just had his Gerald Everett.
No,
or do you think Gerald Everett is better than Henry?
Gerald Everett is not even commanding enough target routes run right now. They're splitting it between him and Donald Parham. Hunter Henry's, I mean, in most leagues is third. He's the tight end 3. Now, I don't think that's going to last for the long haul. I mean, but yeah, Donald Parham's tight end like 6 on the season. Again, very small sample size. 1 touchdown changes the difference between any of these positions, but yet ironically, really none of them have.
Stone Smart touchdown and Stone Smart
yeah. By the way, congratulations on the no targets last week for Stone Smart owner Matt.
So I will not be insufferable this coming week, is what you're telling me. Understood.
And yet, remember the name that I mentioned after that was Pharaoh Brown, who did have
he did catch a touchdown. Yes, he did. Touche.
No,
Jacoby Myers and Kamara would be a good count. Do you think? What is he saying? Do you think Jacoby Myers and Alvin Kamara would be a good counter offer
for Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, for Cooper Kupp.
I would if I could pull that one off. I don't mind. I don't know what you guys' thoughts on Alvin Kamara is. I'm not as high. I think that it's a good upgrade from what you probably have right now.
And you're keeping Terry McLaurin there, assuming that they can get the quarterback situation figured out in Washington, which we've been saying for years, right? Yeah, that sounds more reasonable there, to be honest with you. If the other person accepts that trade.
Yeah.
I like that too. That that would also depend upon what you have as at your other running back position, right? I'm assuming you got 2 running backs that I just. But yeah, I like the Myers and Kamara and getting Kupp there.
Gator, who's a tight end that people should be paying attention to for waivers heading into week 4?
It's Gerald Everett, right? No, come on. Let's talk about Luke Musgrave, Green Bay Packers. 25% roster run sleeper, 30% on ESPN. He is tight end 10 right now on the season. 11 of 15, 124 yards, 0 touchdowns. If he had the touchdowns, like the Donald Parham, we would be talking a lot higher. But the TD's coming. On the year, he's got 15.8% target share, and he's over 8 yards per reception. Well, those stats all come via the fantasy points data suite there. So the 8 yards per reception as a tight end is damn good. And when you're sitting there commanding as a rookie 15% target share, I'm all in on some Luke Musgrave, and that's going to be the guy that I'm going to be targeting in most leagues. Again, 25% on Sleeper and 13% on ESPN. He's available in almost every league, it seems.
Yeah, his in that game, there was one specific throw too where he just went up the seam and broke through coverage, had an overthrown ball, or he would have been to the house. It was so his projected or potential air yards, and I don't have that in front. I'm sure I could find that really easy. I would sure say would justify that, especially from that one specific play in mind. And so I'm right there with you. He looks special. I know getting Christian Watson back is going to hurt in some capacity, but they're throwing the ball so much more than I ever expected. Jordan Love's fourth in total air yards. So there's a lot to be liked about Luke Musgrave, especially considering, like you said, if he had caught that touchdown, it wouldn't be at Sam Laporta level, but it would be so much hype. You wouldn't be able to acquire him. So yeah, I like that call. That's a good one.
Switching over to IDP for waivers, Kayvon Wallace, Nate, replacing Buda Baker, who's on IR. Played 100% of snaps in week 3. Team leading 58% of snaps in the box on Sunday versus the Cowboys, according to PFF. I mean, you want to talk about like right time, space, and place for somebody to break out. I mean, box snaps, run support, tackles. I mean, everything is lined up for him to succeed. Unfortunately, he finished not as highly with Fantasy Pro scoring with 9.8 points, but the opportunity is there. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we don't know, how much time Buda Baker is going to need. Will he come back after 3 weeks from now? Will he need more time after that? Is Kayvon Wallace somebody who, if you're weak at defensive back, you're prioritizing this, heading into week 4 just because of the opportunity he's getting? Or is the fact that he's not really translating that too much into a high tackle floor concerning for you?
If I was putting him in order of my defensive backs on the waiver wire, he's probably my number 2 behind your guy, Julian Blackmon. But given the situation, I love this week Kayvon Wallace against the 49ers. 49ers will absolutely I assume that they will, destroy him. I would like to believe that's the case. But then again, I've also been wrong plenty of times when I've ruled out teams being better than others. And I think that he'll just be up in the box and should have an opportunity to see, double-digit tackles is safe. And here's another thing with Wallace, too, is you think of the amount of sacks that Arizona has put together, which is, for me, is an unsustainable number. I think it's 22% pressure to sack ratio, which for a team that doesn't have outstanding pass rush specialist, I would say, no offense, Dennis Gardick, sorry, but you're not that great. And Zaven Collins hasn't impressed me. I think that could just lead to, more actual plays being driven. And what am I trying to say? The less times you sack the opposing quarterback, the more times that he's on the field with the potential tackle to be made. I know that's such, basic shit, but those are ways to increase again that floor. So yeah, I like Kayvon Wallace a lot this week, especially for the matchup and then going forward. They might trade Buda Baker. There's a good chance that Buda Baker, if he comes back and he looks healthy, he could be a name that they could move around as well.
Yeah, he was making some complaints about wanting to get traded in the preseason, so it's a good call. Let's get to a question here. George Gator, my team. Would you do a Tua and Aaron Jones for Barkley and Christian Watson if it meant the Barkley owner now has a Tua Tyreek Hill stack?
Yeah, if you had another quarterback. He doesn't have another quarterback, though, on this team. If this is the team we were talking about the other night, George, you've got Tua, Diggs, Waddle, Pollard, Aaron Jones, Hawk, and Isaiah Pacheco. That's his starting lineup. So it is a one quarterback. Mm-hmm. But then I don't see another quarterback on the team. So you're not getting you don't have a quarterback at that point.
Yeah, negative on that one.
And that's a problem, especially in fantasy football or in real life football. You got to have a quarterback.
I mean, that's a bold strategy.
That's the Giants. They're finding that out too.
I mean, it worked for the Wildcat with what's his name as the head coach back in the day in the early 2000s with Ronnie Brown as the direct snap. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
that did not work out at all. Anywho, so that's gonna kind of shut us down for today's show. For more waiver wire information, head over to fantasyandframes.com and read our waiver wire articles, both on offense, defense, special teams, and for IDP. For rankings, look for those to be up at fantasyandframes.com. The gentleman right here, Mr. Nate Markham, back-to-back years, top 10 IDP ranker over at Fantasy Pros. Trust us, folks. He talks IDP, you listen. Gator Jay, one of the best producers in the biz. It's great having you in front of the camera. I'm Jorge Edwards. You'll see me with Nate on Shoot the Gap tomorrow night, our IDP podcast, as well as check out all our other shows. We got Dynasty 365 starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. We got Fourth and Frames, where we give you our bussin', discussing, and mid picks heading into week 4. Shoot the Gap, as I mentioned. We got the Fantasy Mailbag Show, 7 p.m. on Thursdays. We got our start and sit articles coming out. We got all sorts of content. Ooh, before we get going, Nate, why don't you tell people some new IDP content that's going to be coming out at Fantasy and Frames going forward that you've been working really, really hard on?
Yeah. So each week, it's going to release on Wednesdays. It's the penultimate weekly IDP roundup. I'm going to look at each game. I'm going to look at situational plays. I'm going to look at injuries that may have impact. This will take into account snap percentages, changes in the defensive scheme. It'll try to be little nuggets of information that are actionable going forward. And some of which, hopefully it's an enjoyable read. You can get little pieces like where I talk about Rashawn Gary, and it's, he added 5 pressures to get to season total of 13. It's 29% pressure rate. So it's a little bit deeper dive. Find out about just maybe be ahead, be proactive instead of reactive. And so hopefully like I said, it's fun to read, easy, just little snippets of info you can take with. And you know what, when you're at the bar or with some friends and you want to see Henry To'oTo'o on the field and you want to talk about him, this might add a little arsenal.
Quick question here before we head out. Dylan, hey guys, got an intriguing move that was accepted. Wondering if I made a bad call. We're
waiting on the rest of it.
Yep, waiting. While we're doing that, don't forget, folks. We head over to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so whenever we drop Fantasy and Frames content, or fantasy football content rather, you will be notified first. And we are dropping a lot of it. And also, don't forget to tune in on Sundays to the Fantasy and Frames pregame show, 9 a.m. Eastern to noon. This past week, we went up to 12:30, giving you basically all the fantasy relevant information for every single game, offense, defense. We get Ryan Weiss here. Look at these studs killing it, boys. Thank you, Ryan. Dylan, if we do not hear from you in a few seconds before we sign off, keep putting the question in the chat and we'll go back and we'll answer it. Oh, there it is. Here we go.
Boom.
Traded Deshaun Watson and Kelsey for Lawrence and Keenan Allen. I have Laporta, so I felt better making it. My wide receiver depth is also Devonta Smith, Cooper, Deontay Johnson. Thoughts? I like it.
I love it. I think it's great.
This is great.
Yeah. You up at quarterback.
Big time.
And solidified a wide receiver room.
Oh my gosh.
Your backup your backup tight end, who is number 3, the number 3 tight end on the year right now, and giving Kelsey every bit that he wants when it comes to the stats. So I love it. I love the deal.
Fantastic job. And thank you very much for the subscribing and the like.
Absolutely.
That's what we're here for, folks. So we'll be here every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, helping you get your waiver wire situation set up. Again, don't forget to head over to fantasyandframes.com and check out the rest of our waiver wire content. So for Nate, Gator, I'm Jorge. You all have a great evening.